What's up, y'all? You're listening to the My Aggie Nation podcast. I'm Alex Miller, joined always by the one and only Robert Cessna. Cease, did you get any sleep on your Saturday? What did a bye week Saturday look like for you?
Let me see. I got awake and probably did about 5 high school football rewrites. So we didn't get in the night before. Then I did a women's basketball advance, added some men's basketball. That was it. Maybe just women's basketball, but then just enjoyed the rest of the day off. Watched a lot of football. I liked watching the Alabama Ole Miss games. Saw a BYU game because I got to wait up to the end because I am a voter. But BYU game was wild. I haven't been at that stadium to knowing that was the largest crowd ever. But I did enjoy my bye week. How about you?
I did too. I stayed up and watched the end of that BYU Utah game too. I don't know. Was it a hold? Was it not?
Such a bad camera angle that they showed since they had bad TV coverage. It wasn't a prime game. I couldn't see if it was or wasn't. I hate these calls at the end of the game. We're seeing them a lot in the NFL where I watched the game where Burrow got a face mask, a receiver got mugged and no call. And you should call consistently, I feel, if you're an official, whether it's the first play or the last play. But I sympathize with officials. But that being said, BYU still had to go 50, 60 yards to get in field goal range. So Utah still was one play away from winning.
Well, there was a lot of football that happened last weekend. There is some football happening this weekend. If I'm a betting man, the Aggies are probably going to win this weekend, considering
39.5-point pick. If they don't win this game, we won't be back next week.
Well, they're also playing the Aggies, Cease.
I know that.
Well, I said the Aggies were going to win.
But you only cover one Aggies. You don't
That's
cover
true.
New Mexico State Aggies, even though if we keep doing what we do, well, maybe one day we will we will be in Las Cruces.
I tried to make a joke, but it fell flat on my face.
No, it was a good joke.
Anyway, A&M, we've said it before, there's no more margin for error. This is a game that A&M should win pretty easily. I'd be stunned if they didn't. What do you want to see from this A&M team coming into this game where there's still a lot to play for, but it is against a group of 5 team that they should roll through?
No stupid mistakes, good tackling. Doesn't matter who you're playing, even if you're going up against a dummy, you can have bad form tackling a dummy. So they're going to be tackling live bodies after that fiasco that was known as South Carolina. They better be tackling, and they better not be piling on plays late on the wrong Aggies and get 15-yard penalties. I expect play at times to be ragged. I expect to see a lot of substitution, but A&M's got to cut down on the penalties, and they better tackle.
2 things I'm looking for. What does the entire running back stable look like? We know that Amari Daniels is going to probably be the starter. We know E.J. Smith is the primary backup. What does A&M do beyond that? Because Elko, he hasn't really, spilled the tea per se on what A&M's going to do, but he's said everything's on the table. And, this is a game, if you're going to experiment a couple of things, it's probably the one to do it. Do they use Terry Bussey more in the running back position? Do they move a guy? Have they moved a guy from defense to offense? We just don't know. I'm curious to see what exactly they do there. And the other thing I want to know, does Connor Wegman play?
Well, 2 things. I've talked to a lot of people. We don't think we'll know anything about the running backs personally because they're going to do anything. They're not going to change it for New Mexico State. They'll change it for Auburn. If they're going to use Bussey, I don't think they would do it unless they want to show them that they're not using them. I think this is a ploy. That's my take, and I know others feel the same way. They don't need to have good running backs to beat New Mexico State. Wegman, I'm with you because I think Wegman needs to play for a lot of reasons. Number one, this team is 3 victories away from the college football playoff. You never know what quarterback they might need. It's easy to say, well, they decided Marcel Reed's the guy. What if he twists his ankle against New Mexico State? I mean, and then you got to rely on Wegman the rest of the way. They need to get Wegman some confidence, I feel. There's no way that guy can have confidence right now until he goes out and gets it on the field.
I think we're all anticipating that Marcel Reed is going to start, but it will be interesting to see how Wegman is used and if he's used, because obviously he was not against South Carolina. There was not – A&M didn't pivot to him even when things weren't going great in the second half. Now, one could say that wasn't necessarily Marcel Reed's fault in some of those aspects, but that's definitely the things that I'm going to be watching for sure.
And that being said, is people ask me, I said, I think it'd have been worse to go to Wegman because obviously Marcel Reed kept a lot of plays open to even make a play where Wegman was a sitting target. Not that he's can't make a play with his legs, but he doesn't have the speed and quickness and agility that Reed does. So once again, there are things we're going to be looking at. Anytime you go out on the field and you got another team out there, who knows what might happen. You don't want to get any injuries. If I'm A&M, guys have to be 100% or they're not playing, because I guarantee you the Auburn game will be tougher.
Well, we've got 2 weeks now of the college football playoff rankings. Last week, A&M came in at number 14 in the first poll, and now they have dropped a spot to 15 after what was kind of a crazy week across the college football landscape, and A&M fell a spot because of that. What have you made of where A&M's kind of fallen in the pecking order, and what you're seeing from the teams that are around them, and especially with the way the committee is trying to sort through a lot of these SEC teams, that it may not be as cut and dry of who is ahead of who with how everyone hasn't played each other?
Whether it's the BCS or the college football playoff, always remember there's not been enough games played yet. There's still so many big games out there, and A&M is in a great position. They know what they have to do to get in, and a lot of teams don't have that. Ole Miss knew they had to win. They won. They won a big game, and they were outside the rankings. They came into the rankings because they beat the team that a lot of people thought might be the best team, and they lined up and whooped them. So the committee is just, to me, like you got a bunch of humans like you and I are talking around right now. They rewarded Ole Miss because they beat somebody. A&M really hasn't beaten anybody yet. Missouri's not any good. And I always
LSU is not looking at that good.
LSU's not that good. And I always hate it when they decide, well, you barely lost to this team. Well, I don't think losses should define who you are. I think it should be wins. But on the flip side, why is Penn State so high? What have they done besides lose close to Ohio? So once again, you're talking about humans. We're talking about the eye test. There's no right or wrong answer, but there's a lot more big games left, because if Ole Miss would fall flat in their face one of the last two games, then they're out. But A&M, it's right in front of them, so it doesn't matter if they're 5, 15, or 25. Got to win.
What do you think of Texas at number 3? I think a lot of Aggies are, kind of puzzled by what Texas has or has not done per se. When Texas's ranking was unveiled, Reese Davis said on the show, "What's Texas' best win? Vanderbilt?" And so, what have you kind of made of where the Longhorns have fallen? Because Aggies are going to be paying attention to those things.
If you're an Aggie, you should hope they go to number 1, because that way when you beat them, you can say, hey, we beat number 1, we beat number 3. You want to play higher-ranked teams, because obviously A&M took Missouri to the woodshed, but they showed that Missouri's not a good team. And Missouri barely beat Oklahoma last week, and they barely won some of their other games. So if you're an Aggie, you should be rooting for Texas to be as good as they can when you beat them, and then that makes you look even better, because once again, anybody can run rule. If you're playing softball, a bad team, a beer league team. But if you run rule the champs, then everybody goes, whoa, hey, if A&M takes Texas to the woodshed, whether they come in as 2, 3, or 4, then A&M could say, you know what? We're better than that team.
Speaking of last week's slate of games, the Missouri-Oklahoma game might have been the dumbest of them all. I mean, just the way that it ended with the fumble, the scoop and score touchdowns were just absolutely bonkers. And I was happy because I picked Missouri to win in the Prague panel, but holy cow, what a ugly football game.
I couldn't be an AD because I'd probably fire a football coach, because I'm watching that game. I turned over, watch a lot of football, and I go, dang, Oklahoma's going to win this game. And then all they do is stop Missouri and their backup quarterback when defense is your calling card. And I think it took Missouri 3 plays to go down and tie the game. And I go like, what is Venables doing? Where's the defense? I mean, you got a chance for a big win and go, okay, they still have the ball. No, let's let your quarterback just go out and look like a deer in headlines and just drop the ball. Like, whoa, hey. And you go like, if I'm an AD, I'd say don't come back. I mean, it's like, that's why I couldn't be an AD. And I know everybody has different purposes in life. But, man, there's just some simple things about football. I mean, that's why a lot of fans get upset, because they look and they know, like, not being able to use timeouts and doing whatever. If you're an Oklahoma fan, but you know what? You got a lot of national championships, so now you're going to have a suck year. So you just got to, that's the way life goes.
That's the way life goes if you're the editor, Steve Boggs.
Boy, way to get a rip in on our editor. That was Alex Miller saying that. Speaking of Alex Miller, you're going to rip Buzz. I mean, A&M men basketball team got a big game on Friday night. People say that they don't play big games. Ohio State's coming in, not Ohio University and the Bobcats, but the Buckeyes are coming in.
The Buckeyes, and they're ranked. They're ranked. Look, I think A&M is starting to really show what the team is going to actually look like now that Solomon Washington's back to full strength. They've got Zurich Phelps back. The way that Phelps plays, he just brings a different dimension to the game. He's very downhill. He facilitates well. He plays really good defense. Gets a lot of steals. He's playing at kind of a higher turnover rate from what Buzz said, that what he anticipates and what he thinks he's capable of playing at. But you look at what A&M's got. It's more than just Wade Taylor this year, which I think is what A&M needed. Because last year, Wade, for as good as he was, 5 of the 7 times he scored 30 or more points, A&M lost. He couldn't just put the team on his back night in, night out. A&M needs more than Wade. Wade is having a pretty good start to the season. He's actually, his assist numbers are up this season so far, even though his scoring is a little down. And I think Burrell Payne, the forward that they brought in from Minnesota, he's going to become a real weapon. He's very athletic. I think they're still trying to figure out, how his role is going to totally shake out, but certainly a big game Friday, like you said. And, credit to Buzz and A&M basketball. I mean, they have really stepped up the schedule. Not only that, they've brought some pretty big games to Reed Arena. It hasn't necessarily been that way the last couple of years. The bigger games they've either played on the road, whether that was, say, Memphis or SMU, or in the neutral site games down in Houston or up in Fort Worth. They've actually got some of these bigger games against the power conference opponents at Reed Arena this year, which, if you're paying for season tickets, is you're getting good bang for your buck.
Yeah, without a doubt, much better schedule. I'm just wondering if Buzz was a big Mission Impossible fan. Because, if S.E. Shorts would do basketball, I like to see him do, "Good morning, Mr. Phelps. The man you see here is Buzz Williams. Your mission, if you decide to take it, is to take this team to the Sweet 16 and Final Four. As always, you and any of the IMF force will be disavowed if caught behind enemy's lines." Hey, we didn't even rehearse that.
We know who to pick you for Prague Halloween next year now.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Yeah, nonetheless, big game Friday night for Buzz and his company. And, hey, we didn't get you on the high school football podcast, but you got any teams you're looking out for in the high school football playoffs going into the postseason?
No, not really. I mean, I'll tell you what, I was shocked, and I guess I'll show my age. Scores were coming in last week, and Rick, our managing editor, who moved from Minnesota, is getting used to Texas football, and he noticed that, I don't know if console they had the score reversed. Max Preps or somebody initially had it as whatever. And so I'm laughing, and sure enough, they did. So then when I saw that the score said Gulfweight 40, Mart 0, I go, they got another one wrong. And that's exactly what I thought on Friday night. Then I found out on Monday, Mart lost to Gulfweight. And if any good high school Texas fans are out there, Mart losing 40-0 to Gulfweight. So maybe a good friend of mine, I'm not afraid, Jeff Kosowski, the Brenham coach, Bremont coach, so maybe Bremont's got a chance this year to get out of the region. He needs another state championship. He's only won 3.
Yeah, he's only got 3. Needs another one. Hey, his son's the star quarterback. He's a
freshman, yeah.
He's a freshman.
Yeah.
I picked the Bremont Tigers to win the region down to 2A Division
See,
2.
how about that? We didn't rehearse this at all. This is, it's hard to believe. We don't even rehearse this.
Hey, this is what you get when you subscribe to theeagle.com. Be sure to check theeagle.com for all of our coverage on A&M's game against New Mexico State and A&M men's hoops against Ohio State and A&M women's basketball. They got a big game against West Virginia coming up.
15th ranked West Virginia on the road. We'll see. Aggies will get a good test to where they're at.
Hey, the scoring started to show itself a little bit in that Western Michigan game, though. So
big difference between Western Michigan and West Virginia.
Well, there's a fair point. All right, we'll be back next week on the My Aggie Nation podcast.